All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Skorch the Fears. I think we're on like episode 42 or something like that. We have the amazing Megan Whitmore, my transaction coordinator. She's amazing. She's super cool. Let me figure out where to put this for a second. I'm gonna like try to Instagram live it too. This might just not work. I might just have to do something like that. Okay. Anywho, whatever. So awesome. How you doing?
Good. Obviously,
Amazing. You ever been on a podcast before?
I have not.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. We just talk like we normally do, basically, and talk crap about realtors. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So I just want to start off like give a little intro about yourself, like who you are, what you do, why you chose to do this, etc.
Okay, so obviously I'm Megan Whitmore. I live currently in Southern California. I've done real estate transaction coordinating. I've done every element of real estate. I've worked in as an agent. I've owned a brokerage. I've worked in title. I've worked in escrow, natural hazard, home warranty. And I always fall back to the transaction coordinating side because it's kind of like putting a puzzle together, in my opinion. You're incorporating pieces of a file and making sure that they're all complete whenever a transaction closes. So I'm not out there pounding the pavement in terms of showing properties and getting offers accepted. I am merely on the back end. That's just making sure that everything is done according to the contract and making sure it goes well.
I love it. So why do you like that? What about explain more what you mean by like a puzzle? And what does a transaction coordinator do specifically?
So what we do is that basically when a listing is taken from an agent and or we get an offer accepted, we open escrow. That's when I come into the transaction. That's where everything is handed off to me in the file. I work with the buyers and or sellers, escrow, lenders, the agents, just ensuring that everything is on the up and up. And so basically that takes that job away from the agent to be able to go and get more business. So that way,
or the investor, whoever.
Or investor like you. So same thing with you. It's like, obviously we work together in terms of creating opportunities for escrows and to sell and to obviously grow together and make money. And I do all the legwork or try to do all the legwork for you.
Yeah.
In terms of like making sure that, the deposits in the escrow or there's disclosures they're signed or inspections or contingencies or lender issues or all that stuff.
Yeah, I love it. So, okay, cool. And then, so let's go into a little bit. I'll just start it off like in the sense of like, so what type of person do you think is good for being a transaction coordinator? Because it's like an interesting mix, because it's not like you aren't an introvert. Like it's not like you're literally just working with paperwork all day. It's actually dealing a lot with relationships. But then also, I would kill myself if I had to do paperwork all day. And I don't know if you've garnered that yet, but I would not enjoy it whatsoever. So what do you think about that? Like what type of person, if they were watching right now and they're thinking about getting into transaction coordinating, what do you think they should do? Or like, how would they, not what should they do? How would they know that they'd be a good fit for it?
So the one key thing is to be organized is obviously very time sensitive related information and materials that have to be acquired and or identified. And then also being able to adhere to those timelines. Obviously we have like the one transaction working on right now and trying to make sure that both sides are happy and we're getting to the end goal without having problems arise. And if there are, to be able to work through those issues to conquer the end result, which is to close.
Love it. Awesome. So like, what do you think, like maybe personality wise, just so like organized and an extrovert? Probably you're pretty good.
Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting. It's interesting because when I think of people who do paperwork, I think of introvert, but then also you're 100% not, and you would suck at this if you were an introvert. Like it's a lot of relationship management, which is interesting.
It's very relationship management. It's a lot of building. It's a lot of comfort. It's a lot of discussion. It's a lot of being, I wouldn't say, it's just there's a lot of communication involved. a lot in terms of trying to mesh two people's personalities. And then you have your outside parties, including your buyers or your investors or your sellers, and bringing those all into one as you are only communicating with one specific party, and having that message relayed to like another party is always very difficult. So, for example, like with, a recent transaction with ours, it was a matter of, the agent is not necessarily understanding where we're coming from, but they can't relay that onto the seller because they're taking what we're saying is almost like a telephone game. So they're taking what we're saying and then they're manipulating it, or they're forgetting key elements or pieces to be able to go back to the seller and us to work together as a whole versus one against the other.
I mean, it's also particularly crazy with mine, right? Because we have so many more people than what is usually on it. Because we can have like because like most investors probably just have seller, wholesaler, buyer. We have seller, seller's agent, buyer's agent, me, and buyer. And then there's also the lender. So you're probably managing like 6 different people all at the same time.
Escrow and everything else as well. Yeah.
Which is pretty gnarly, and escrow. So it's like 8 or 9 different people per transaction, which is pretty crazy and pretty cool. How do you keep your cool doing it? Because it's interesting. You're like on the front lines.
I am, and obviously, as you know firsthand, I like to bitch and complain a lot about it, but I enjoy it.
That's our catharsis, guys. We just talk shit about people who are like screwing with us in our transactions.
Well, and it goes back to like our recent one in terms of closing. It's like now they want to keep possession there until like, God knows when. So it's like that's where the definitely the difficult parts come in, is dealing with that. On the flip side of the coin, though, you build these relationships with, especially like escrow. Escrow is a big thing because there's such a huge entity in these transactions. And like with you, we continue to use the same escrow officers or people. So they're learning more about me. I'm learning about them. We're learning about how to work together and to achieve this overall goal.
But we're trying to find a new escrow, right? So like, what do you think should be in an escrow company that makes your life easier and probably another person's life easier as well? Because most of the people watching probably don't have transaction coordinators. And we'll also go over where to find a transaction coordinator, because I don't understand why not like everyone should have a transaction coordinator. It doesn't even make sense to me. But let's start with, how do you find a good escrow company that like can work well with a transaction coordinator?
I think that at first face value, it's hit or miss. You're going to have to do research. You have to interview just like a transaction coordinator, or even a person working with an investor or an agent. They have to do the research. They have to trial and error is the best way to put it. And then once you start getting a rapport or reputation with them and you learn how they work, and then you go on top of that and you figure out how you work, then it becomes kind of moldable together. So with our escrow companies we work with currently, I think the key thing, and we've had this discussion before, is communication, 100%. I'm a big communicator. I like to walk away from my desk every day, like knowing the answers to my questions, or knowing where I'm at with my file every day of the week or every 48 hours.
Right.
Because if I don't, then it's like, where are we at? What's going on? And then it becomes like kind of a trickle effect.
Right.
Because we got people asking, agents asking, you're asking what's going on with this deal. And unless we have the answers to those questions, we don't know. So I think that communication is probably the number one thing in this business.
I love it. So, okay. Let's go into your story a little bit. You've been doing real estate for 25 years?
Yep. actually 27, I think. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's nuts. Let's just start with your journey. Like, how did you get into real estate?
I was actually living in Dallas. It was back before, we were on dial-up internet. My mom was an agent. She had a partner. And so I used to stuff envelopes, and I used to do the paper carbon copies of contracts for them and meet people and do disclosure.
How old were you when this was happening?
14.
14. Nice. Okay, cool.
And so that's what my job was growing up with my parents or my mom.
I love it. So you've been doing it since you were like a teenager, and you just instantly fell in love with it?
As the time went on, I started working in offices, like as receptionist, office managers, transaction coordinating back then wasn't a big thing as it is now. It's more assistant based. And then, and at 18 years old out of high school, went to college and I got my license. I was like, I'm going to do this. So
I love it.
yeah.
Awesome.
And then shortly thereafter, moved to Vegas. Well, 10 years later, I moved to Vegas.
Okay. So did you get your license in California? Were you in California?
I did back in 2007.
Okay.
But then I let it go. Key thing is if you don't renew your license and you don't keep up with your education, just do it just to have it, because once you let it go, it's harder to get it back.
That's what you're doing right now. You have to get it back right now.
That's correct.
Yeah, I get it. So, okay. You become an agent in California, then you move to Vegas.
Actually, I was an agent in Texas, then I moved to Vegas.
Okay. Oh, wait, sorry. Maybe I missed this. Say that again. You grew up in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where in Texas? You said Dallas?
Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
And then in 2006, I moved to Vegas.
Okay.
It was on a whim.
Just guys?
Just cause. I started working as a transaction coordinator in Nevada, in Las Vegas, and got my license there.
And why?
I enjoy, like I said, the paperwork, and definitely everything is state to state based. So everything is different when you go from one state to another. Texas is a non-escrow state. We're a title only state in Texas with attorneys versus having an actual escrow as a mutual third party. Nevada's the same way. Here in California, we're an escrow state. So every state and situations are different. So I wanted to learn about Nevada laws.
Right.
So I went there, got a job working as a transaction coordinator for Remax, studied and got my license there. And then I was there for a total of 4 months, then moved to California.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's when I started working in California.
I love it. And so you've been a transaction coordinator ever since?
That, and then among other entities of real estate business.
What else have you been doing other than transaction coordinating? Because I know you've done a lot. Like you've been an agent, transaction coordinator. Are there any other parts of real estate you've been in?
I worked as a natural hazard disclosure statement representative and also a director.
I don't even know what that is. What does that even mean? Like, I mean, I know what that means, but like explain that to people.
Okay, so the natural hazard disclosure statement is a requirement in the state of California to transfer any real property. So it's done through escrow. It's one of those fancy reports that you sign off on every time you do a deal.
I thought I did too. Like I kind of remember those.
Yeah, so it's natural hazards. There's 7 elements: liquefaction, earthquake, flood. I don't even remember the rest of them, but it's basically anything man-made is what it is, like a natural disaster. Or not, sorry. Then there's man-made. So there's 2 elements that report. And then I did home warranty.
Okay.
Sold home warranty for a while. I worked in title for a while as a title rep.
Okay. Wait, that's crazy. Why were you? So were you all of these things at the same time, or were you what was making you switch between them?
So I actually owned a brokerage with my ex-husband, and we did the REO market and short sale market. And
So was this 2008?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So it was because that was like a huge thing that was happening.
Yeah. And basically he got sick one day, and with real estate, you don't have medical insurance. So he said, one of us needs to grow up and get a job. So I went into the National Hazard Disclosure for Property ID, one of the biggest ones in California. And then I hated it. I went into title after that, and then it kind of just kept on exploring opportunities within the
And the reason was because they just provided health insurance? That was the main reason?
That was the main reason.
Okay.
Salary and health insurance.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I did that.
Starting your own brokerage, I didn't know you did that. That's rough. That's hard.
It was very difficult. It was a process.
Yeah. Like, how did that, like, I mean, since it sounds like you're not doing it anymore, but like what made you start that? And then tell me the story of that a little bit more. Like, how did that start? And what's the story behind you being a broker or owning a brokerage? Because I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So I moved to California in 2007, and my ex-husband was he was a teacher, and I was had this dream of owning my own real estate brokerage. So I got my license. He went and got his license. We ended up moving and down off the mountains of San Bernardino. And I worked for Brokerage as our transaction coordinator. And it was a small brokerage. He had been in business for over 30 years. And it was him and his wife. He had all these bank-owned REO accounts and everything else. And we started working for him. Well, he was diagnosed with cancer. And so he told Jason, Mike's husband, he said, hey, I'll sell you my brokerage. Go get your broker's license and it's yours. All my accounts, everything.
Interesting. So it was just kind of out of the whim. It's like, whoa, that's some providence right there.
So we took over the brokerage and after he passed away, and we kept that until I basically got divorced. And
gotcha.
Then it just kind of dissipated after that.
Yeah, because the divorce probably like makes it where it's like this just isn't going to be able to be sustainable while this is happening.
Exactly.
I got that. So then,
I am a mom. I have a 13-year-old daughter. Being the industry that I've been in, working in real estate, transaction coordinating, basically all of it, I have been so blessed to have her with me every day. I've got to see her grow. I never have missed a beat. So transaction coordinating is one thing in the industry that I can do. And I can like run out and leave and go pick her up from school or come back. I can do it at midnight if I want to.
Right.
Whereas there are deadlines and there's a lot of work to be done with it. At the same token, it can be very flexible.
I love it. Yeah. So like I was going to ask that. I mean, literally that's like probably one of the biggest problems, at least, especially for a real estate agent that I see. Real estate investors too, if they get too caught up in it, is doing that balance of like being with their kids and like doing like other stuff. Like I'm kind of like, I'm single and 27. So that helps in the sense that I just need to do a FaceTime with my mom once a week, and then I'm good. I could just work the rest of it. Right. So, that's a good plus about transaction coordinating. Do you feel like you didn't have that when you were an agent?
I think that, and ever since COVID happened and like the open houses were ideal before COVID. You got more clientele, you got more business, you got exposure. It was a very tough market because I feel like the real estate industry out in California before COVID was oversaturated.
Interesting.
So you have so many agents and a lot of agents that hire transaction coordinators because they don't know what the heck to do. And the good thing about what has happened with the Department of Real Estate is that they have changed their testing. It's harder to get a license now. It's really hard. Whereas I feel like anybody could do it before. So I feel like that's definitely changed, but it was just so saturated that unless you
What changed on the test? I'm kind of curious.
I'm sorry?
What changed on the test? Why is it harder?
Like our associate Brian, like I always tell Brian, don't study the book because it's not about the book. Now it's about the book. It used to be more logical, the test, but now it's strictly based on the information that's printed, which I disagree with because that's not life. That's not real estate. Real estate is being out in the field. It's interacting with people. It's building a rapport, relationship with these people. It's finding how to talk to them, finding what they want. Whereas the book is based more, and the test is based more on law.
Right.
It's very legal now, which I think is fantastic, especially with the direction I'm going with my life. But I think that makes it better because it's also presenting more ethical standards. Whereas, real estate agents, they can be mean people. I mean,
right.
I don't know. But I just know that, the open house where it was before, it was just oversaturated. You had to really work, 60, 70 hours a week to really be able to survive in real estate. And then when COVID happened, I think it was more referral based. I think it was like, oh, I have a friend that works in real estate, or I have a family member that works in real estate. And that's where real estate agents are typically getting their business, is repeat referral and family.
Interesting.
It's not like we don't have newspaper ads anymore. We don't have necessarily the sign calls anymore. Zillow's out the door for in terms of obtaining leads. There's just been a lot of changes that I think it's becoming more difficult for agents to get their business.
I love it. Okay. So something I'm curious about too. So, how do you feel like what's the best way to do relationship management, especially with agents, right? Like it might be a little bit different for you because you're from SoCal and this is like your first thing with NorCal. I sense, I don't really know, but I sense probably real estate agents are closer to NorCal in a lot of places in the country. I think SoCal is naturally more relaxed. What do you think? You actually know. What do you think? Do you think it's more like, and when I say this, because we've had conversations about this, so I'll say it for the audience. In Northern California, people are a little bit more uptight with deadlines and stuff like that. While in SoCal, it's like you miss a deadline. It's like, okay, just figure it out later, right?
Yes.
Which I'm curious, first off, this is just my own thing. Like in other states, which one do you think it's more like?
Obviously, the closer we get to the South in general, the people are nicer.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, NorCal agents are definitely, I think you're dealing with a different, how can I put this? The price point, depending on the areas in Northern California, are a little bit different than Southern California price points. I
Right.
feel like the business and the element of doing the work is the same. I just think that their standards are higher than what we are down here. We're, like you said, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more friendly, a little bit more easygoing. There are a few agents up in Northern California that do have that personality, but they are definitely more stringent.
Okay. Interesting. So how do you deal with that? Right? Like how do you deal with agents who are like on our ass, like whatever, like something's blowing up and then the agent is like, I don't know if any agents have ever screamed at you. I don't know how bad it gets, which is the good thing about a transaction coordinator is I kind of just am the guy afterwards with the catharsis, but I know a lot of people don't have their own transaction coordinator. So how do they deal with agents who like have a stick up their butt type of thing?
I think again, it's you have to find a common ground, and you have to. Let's go back to a recent transaction that we had. That we had a problem with an agent. I couldn't say
Tell the
names.
story of it. Tell the story of that transaction, whatever it is. We can
Kind
don't
of,
say names, but
yeah.
like go through the situation.
So obviously there was some concerns, there were some issues with the end buyer, in terms of
And that's the assignee for
yeah,
everyone who's watching.
obtaining a loan and having to make some difficult choices in terms of moving forward, canceling. Are we going to get this loan? Are we not going to get this loan? And I think the key element was just the communication aspect. When you get into a situation where you know that there's going to be delays or problems or issues, having that open door, open line of communication is essential. Because again, it goes back to the whole, like we're working with our end buyer and they're working with the seller, so they've got to relay information back and forth, and it's all about what you can provide to them, so that way they hopefully relay that accordingly to the seller. And with this one specifically, there obviously was a lot of heat on a personal matter, not between us, so to speak, but
Right.
the listing agent and then the agent that was helping us on the buying side. And she
Yeah.
had a recent, death in the family.
Right.
Her emotions were on the rise tremendously.
Right.
I think the more that we sat back and we kind of took into consideration what she was going through on a personal matter, but also trying to keep it professional, but also try to open that line of communication of her frustrations as a whole, definitely helped us get to the end of the finish line.
Yeah. 100%.
I think that that's the key thing when it comes to agents, especially, is that if you can find a common ground and it not just be strictly business, they become more open to wanting to help you. And you're not a robot in this business. A lot of people
Right.
like that we are, but we're not. We just have the same goal in mind.
Right. 100%. So, yeah, like I 100% agree in the sense of like it really is recognizing just what because I feel like everybody's always saying something that's not being said aloud, right?
Yes.
Um, And like, I feel like a lot, like for that situation, it was like, I've never had a notice to perform given to me.
Mhm.
And also I'm dealing with a lot personally. And that's where all the anxiety was coming from. I sense that's also the same with like every agent, probably every person, but like especially with every agent, depending on what's happening, that like can make just a huge difference in general, is like when you're able to see that, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think too, like we had another transaction recently within the past couple of months where I mean the transaction went pretty smoothly, and then Escrow called me and said, "Hey, we just met with the sellers. I guess they had had this home for like almost 80 years." And so it
Right.
was a very emotional aspect for that seller to go in there and sell the property and sign the papers. And so I think that especially with what your business model is and what we do, we're dealing with a different kind of group of people.
We're dealing with distressed sellers a lot of
Correct.
times. It's not like people who just remodeled their houses and are just doing whatever.
It's very emotional. And
Yeah.
so, whereas they're getting, if the agents really, and this is the way that I've dealt with a lot of this, I had to do in the REO market. I got chased after with a gun on a person's property.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's crazy. I want to keep going, but then I'm going to ask about that because that's nuts.
So, but it's about realizing and understanding these people and where they're coming from, and that we're not bad people because we're trying to, you know, buy the property at a discounted price or whatever the case may be. We're here also to help them in essence because
Right.
it could go to the state if it's probate. It could, go into foreclosure. It could do a lot of things to where they miss out 100%. And that's what, every agent feels that they could have done more or could have gotten more for a buyer or a seller.
Right.
Some situations are not like that. And some people don't look into the elements of the what ifs. Like
Well, it's also not always about price. Like, so
not always.
people like for instance, I sold my car recently. Um, I could have put in $500 to $1,000 and probably gotten $1,000 more. But
Mhm.
also, it's just like I just don't care. Like, I just want to sell it. Like, it's fine. I'll sell it at a discount so that I just don't have to deal with it anymore because I got other stuff I got to be doing or like dealing with, right?
Right.
So I think people think it's always about price, and everyone should always 100% try to get the highest price possible. Yeah, possible. But sometimes people just don't want that, and that's okay too.
It's interesting that you say that. So I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I am a law student. I did do my residency this past weekend in law school, and
Congratulations.
thank you. I'm very excited, aside from other things. But one of the things that was discussed, and mind you, we're dealing with people. I would say there's probably give or take 40 to 50 of us in the classroom.
Hmm.
And the biggest takeaway from the entire weekend was talking about homeless. And then one gal, she's actually from LA, she's an agent, and she brought up the point of the housing market and how there was such a, you talk about having a blue collar, white collar individual, that the all American dream is to buy a home.
Right.
That's all we want in life. Most of us want in life.
Right.
And the conversation was that how much things have changed, especially during COVID, and the housing market increased as much as it did, like more so, I think, than what we've ever seen before. I
Yeah.
mean, we're paying up to $200,000 over list price.
Yeah.
And she said that with that took away the American dream
Mm.
because us, a regular person such as myself that, I make good money, but I'm a single mom. I live, in SoCal. It's not an easy lifestyle because
Right.
in most California, you have to have two incomes in order to stay here if you want to be
Right.
at home. And so the one thing that I had brought up during a briefing that we had talked about was I think in that time, in terms of COVID, I think it was a matter of greed.
Hmm. Think so?
I do. I think that people took it to the extent that they did because this was the highest market we've ever had, as far as I know. And the craziest market besides like an REO market.
The funny thing is I started in real estate right when COVID hit, so I don't know any other market yet, or I'm
Oh,
starting to see one.
interesting.
Fun fact. But anyways, keep going. Like, tell me about your
So
opinion about it being greed.
A lot of people in life and a lot of people that buy homes, California or anywhere, they're either buying their first home or they're buying a move up home.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that it usually goes in life. And we were talking a lot about generational stuff in terms of, what it was back in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, where you had a home and you raised your kids in that home, you put your kids through college, and then you fulfilled the regular lifestyle of like college, marriage, kids, buying a home. And then
Right.
eventually that first home that you lived in would be somehow end back up to you. Whereas the average person lives in their home nowadays 5 to 7 years. That's the average. So I think when COVID hit with stimuluses, with the ability to work from home, like all these transitional things that occurred, that people got greedy and they're like, hey, well, now we can afford $1 million property versus a $700,000 property.
Right. Because of the interest rate drops.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's leading us back into that REO market. I think it's leading us back into an element of living beyond your means, but in a different way. I mean, people took out and used all of their money to go and buy this $1 million home, which they had a $700,000 home, which was perfect. What was wrong with it?
Right.
So it goes back into, and that's where I think we're having, even with your, with what we do with your stuff, is that people are still stuck in that mindset
Right.
that the house may only be worth 200,000, but they're seeing it. Wait a minute, 6 months ago it's worth $400,000.
Right. And they're like, what happened?
Exactly. And I think that is a lot of frustration right now with agents, sellers, and just people in general.
Yeah.
Because they're just not understanding the changes, the transitions. Bless you. What happens with the market, and look at the interest rates now. We're expecting another interest rate hike again.
No, that happened yesterday.
Oh, did it happen? I don't watch the news anymore because of the stuff.
It went up another 0.75 points or whatever. So it's going to keep going up, right? It's going to keep happening because Fed kind of needs to do it. It's interesting in the sense of it is a weird place right now because there's a disconnect. Because it's like, it's not that it doesn't feel like we're in a recession, although I think technically we're in a recession, right? Like
we are, but I don't think we are yet.
Yeah. Also like what I think of as a recession, or first off, I don't really know what a recession is. I was in 8th grade in the last one. So my dad lost his business and I knew that, but my lifestyle didn't change a crazy amount. I just knew my dad wasn't doing the best on that side, but I don't think my lifestyle changed much as like a school kid. So I just feel like it's weird. It's like it might be a super privileged position that I'm in and all my friends are in, but like it might be because maybe all of them came from upper middle class backgrounds, but like it's interesting to hear this stuff on the news. I don't see, I'm also dealing with wholesale properties a lot, right? Which generally is distressed. And there are more houses on the market, but I haven't seen I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I probably have to look at some data. I think I've seen data like foreclosures are up a ridiculous amount, but I just don't think it's like really hit yet, or it doesn't seem like it's hit because you're right. Like it seems like sellers still think it's a high market. Then buyers are like, hell no, like I'm not, it switched. I heard the narrative. I don't have to pay you as much. So I don't know. It's interesting to see what happens and how we have to adjust and stuff like that. It's curious. What do you recommend for recession? I'm curious because you've gone through it. Mm-hmm. Did you own your brokerage in the recession?
Yes.
Okay. So what business moves should someone make when they own a business or just in real estate when a recession hits? I know the last one was literally caused by real estate, so it was even worse. But what do you think generally? Because you've lived that life a little bit.
If you're talking about as a whole, obviously, let's go recession. Obviously, take it as you want or how you see it. We went into a recession during COVID.
Right.
Not real estate Well, and a lot of real estate brokerages did close down. Everybody went to home and remotely. So the way that I look at it, as we've been in this situation or in this recession since COVID. From a
Okay.
business standpoint, minimize your cost and overhead. Basically, do what you can. I worked in
Right.
whenever we owned our brokerage, literally our suite, our office was as big as my office now. We
Mm-hmm.
were back to back, minimizing our cost. The next thing I would say is education. 100% educate yourself on how to work, how to do a short sale, how to handle, like, become more familiar with doing like a broker price opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Next application would be applications to the banks. Create.
Explain these things just in case people don't know. Like, what is a short sale? What is a BPO or broker price opinion? Just
So
quickly do some definitional stuff.
okay, so short sale is basically where you owe more or you can't afford your monthly mortgage payment, and now you're going to default. So let's say my mortgage or my loan amount is $450,000. My property is only worth $200,000. The ideal thing would be to not have a foreclosure and not go that direction, which would be the option to go and contact your bank and do a short sale.
Right.
That'll give you the opportunity to get out of the home and sell the home without having as much liability as if you were to go into a foreclosure.
Right.
And of course, the banks don't want to work with you. And when it comes to cost involved, like commissions, escrow fees, title fees, that goes all back to the bank. You pay none of that. Basically, you're just saying, here's my home, sell it for me. I know I'm going to be at a loss, and I know I'm not going to gain anything in terms of like profit at the end of the day.
Right.
And then obviously the broker price opinion, you would even have to do that on a short sale. Broker price opinion is where you go out, you take kind of like what we're going through right now in terms of like a comparative market analysis. What is the price per square foot? What is the housing market here? Where are we at in values based on square footage, pool, garage, living spaces, bathrooms, condition. Another big thing.
Comping the property, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But obviously, it's when it comes to a bank, it's a little bit more strategic. In terms of when you complete those reports, I got mine down to about 45 minutes. But when I first started, they took me about 3.5 hours.
So when you say you were doing short sales, were you selling short sales or were you helping people buy short sales?
Selling short sales.
Okay, so you were like, when you contacted a bank and you were like, hey, I can sell your properties you're trying to get rid of.
So the first thing that I did is I built these relationships with the banks. One of them that I worked with was Select Portfolio Servicing. They were an REO-based company. And then they contacted us and said, hey, do you know short sales? I'm like, I do. And so they offered us short sales. And if the property didn't sell in the short sale, then we automatically got it as a bank-owned property. So we were the automatic listing agent for that. Before that, it was...
What's the difference between REO and short sale? Is a short sale before it hits the market and then it's REO once it hits the market?
REO is after the bank takes the property back.
Right. Okay. So the short sale, the owner still owns it, and REO is post foreclosure.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So with the short sales, I actually did a lot of marketing and research to go out, and I would go to title companies and say, hey, give me your NOD list, your notice of default. So that's basically whatever the position of they're going into a foreclosure, but we have time to basically mitigate that and sell the property. And then hopefully you're not taking as much risk.
Right.
So I would do mail outs. I mean, this was way back when. So I was drop off and mail outs. And then we get calls in to work with them and sell their home.
Interesting. Okay. And then, so did you decide to just stop doing that because eventually people weren't foreclosing as much, or what was the reason?
As the market changed and things started to pick back up again. And also when I worked in the short sale in the foreclosure or REO market, you're working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, damn. Okay.
It was a lot. I don't think I ever slept during those years.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it's very exhausting. But the way that I look at real estate in any essence is that take the business when you can get it. And then there's always time to recover later because you just never know what's going to happen. Look at how many people, even traditional real estate agents right now, have slowed down because of the interest rates. Their business
Right.
is starting to suffer now, but they were so busy these past 2 years with COVID and the height in the market. So it's it's essential to keep an eye on the market, know what's transitioning or what's happening in your market, and then don't be lazy. If it comes down to, oh, well, I have 10 listings right now. I'm going to go take a vacation for the next 6 months. Don't do it. Keep on moving
Right.
those listings and your business model, and then wait another year to take that vacation
Right.
because
It's
things will
interesting.
change.
It's interesting because I just don't know the agent side that well because I've always been on like more the investment side and mainly the wholesaling. And I think it's been a while since I've done a flip. I don't think I've done one since we've been working together.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it's very interesting to hear about the agent side too and like how that works. So what are you doing right now? Is it just transaction coordinating? I know you're just got your license again. You're working to become a lawyer,
Yes.
right? So what is your end goal? Like where do you want to be where you're like, I'm happy as hell
So
career wise?
career wise, right now I'm happy. I do transaction coordinating. I love it. I do have people, different entities, people I work for. Sometimes it's busy, sometimes it's slow, but I get to take advantage of those slow times, kind of like being an agent. In terms of my law degree and where I want to go with that, my ultimate goal, and this will be forever down the road because I am a single mom, would be to become probably some aspect of a real estate lawyer.
Gotcha.
I will not give up my transaction coordinating because I think that gets me involvement with people, growing relationships, building bonds, and putting that puzzle together of my
Right.
file, my transaction. But on the legal side of it, obviously we've had a lot of conversation about the way the contract is written
Right.
and the issues behind the contract and ways to manipulate the contract and
It's like the
or
worst contract ever. Like I think it's literally like what's wrong with these people? It's like I feel like it would take one lawyer to make it actually like a decent
yeah.
contract for like everyone, but they just make it where like you can manipulate this guys. Like if you're in California, um, are you looking for more clients? You are,
I,
right?
I am
So
always.
we'll put your information in here, but like if you're in California and you're looking for like a new client, 100% hit up Megan because she knows so much about the contract and like she could probably extend the contract an extra month if she like really started being mean about it, right? You're not going to give like the agent's not going to like you, but you could, right?
Mhm.
So anyways, I forgot where I was going with that. Keep going. We were talking about the contract.
So no, and so I guess with the law aspect, I would like to kind of be on the back end of I don't know if I do it for free, so to speak, but more of a legal counsel element. Like
Interesting.
I've even called into car legal myself and asked them advice on like the contract or different terms, and they don't know what the hell's going on with it either. They're like, well, that's kind of a gray area. I'm like, well, you wrote the contract, so how are you going to say that if it's a gray area?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's kind of what I would be more of like an advocate, but still TC.
Okay, interesting. Would you like I'm just curious, like what in terms of your TC, like how many contracts do you want? How many like how much cuz like I'll eventually like I'm getting more popular as time goes on. Like this might one day blow up. Like how many clients are you looking for? How many transactions? What's your goal transaction wise?
Goal transaction. I don't necessarily go based on clients. I go on based on transactions. So
Right.
my goal for transactions, I would like to close about 30 a month.
Gotcha.
It's one per day.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. I like it. That's a solid one. So I want to get into this with you too. Obviously we'll put your number out there, right?
Sure.
But you might be, how do you feel about going to like every state, right? Like do you want to stay in certain states? Like California, obviously.
I don't mind learning about other states. That will probably be a transitional point after I finish law school, only
Right.
because every state has different,
So you're mainly looking for California right now.
made in California. Mhm.
Gotcha. So how would you recommend to somebody who's in a different state who wouldn't really be able to use you right now to find a transaction coordinator?
I would definitely say Facebook. Facebook and LinkedIn are probably the two most in the easiest places to go. Obviously, Jonah, you found me on Facebook.
I did.
There's a lot of TC groups out there and different ways to do that. I haven't updated my LinkedIn in I don't even know how long, but I used to get a lot of people out there, and then obviously referral. I know people and agents and brokers are like, "Hey, are you still TCing?" I actually have one that came back to me, I would say about 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he had known me in the industry back whenever I was an agent and owned my own brokerage. And he's like, "Are you still TCing?" "Yep, I am." "Great, I need you." So I don't like those agents because they're kind of like onesie twosie people. So it doesn't take a lot of my time,
Right.
but that way I can focus on the bigger fish like you, because
Right.
your stuff takes a lot.
I'm probably, guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm definitely like her top problem client. This is a joke that we always talk about, because when I was first meeting her, one of the things she said over Facebook was when I was like, "Have you ever dealt with investment like transactions before?" And she had, and you said something on the lines of like, "Yeah, like once it's in once it's in escrow, that's like the easy part." And I was just like, "That is never the easy part. That is always the hardest part for me." So I don't know what she's talking about, but hey, maybe she'll make this easier. What do you think it's just that it's Northern California? Is there any other reasons why? Like I know it's not me. It's just like, what about do you think about wholesaling makes the transaction harder compared to other ones you've done?
I think right now, like I said, I think it's a matter of, I think over the course of the next 6 months to a year, I think your wholesaling is going to become so easy.
Right.
Because I think the transition of the pricing, and I think with the transition of the market, is going to definitely adapt and it's become really great. Your stuff, I think, is more finding like the qualified buyers.
Right.
Like we've had a couple of them that have been amazing, and they're like easy to work with. And then we have some of these that, and I can get it too. The lenders, especially private money or hard money lenders right now, they are as scared as anybody else is right now, because they don't know what's going to happen. And I think that that's a huge problem. And then again, I think with your Northern California snotty kind of agents, and mind you, my aunt is an agent in Northern California too, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I don't like her, but that's okay. I'm like, what? She became an agent? Like, this is really bad.
That's funny.
I just think it's, as I'm learning and adapting more with you and like getting to know these people and kind of getting acclimated to the people out there. I just have the one I'm dealing with right now, which I think that there's no hope and no end game in being on the same page as the one we have right now.
Yeah. Which one? Now I'm curious.
The escrow is supposed to close on Monday.
Oh, okay. Getting who on the same page?
The agent.
Oh, yeah. So guys, this one, the agent is just like not liking us at all. And we're just probably not going to end up doing another deal with them. It sounds like, because they hate us.
I'm honestly okay with that one.
Yeah.
I don't
think you are. Like that. Sometimes it's just like that, where it's like, all right, well, you're ridiculous. I guess we'll just do this and never again. But anyways, so keep going.
But there's, like I said, with the one previous deal that we had that we did have a problem with the personal matters that got kind of brought into the train. She's fantastic. She sent me a whole bunch of text messages and emails, and she's like, "You are fantastic. I really appreciate you. It was great. I'll do it again."
Right.
So I think it's just learning, like I said, it's just learning each individual person.
Right. 100%. Yeah. I feel like my issue is like the buyers and lenders. I still haven't figured out how to solve that. Where like it actually ends up being what I want it to be. I'm sensing it'll be, I think I was nice to our current buyer because I like him, but like in the next one, I think I'm going to like, if you don't use my lender, I'm going to like pull the plug type of thing. So I'm going to do from now on. It might help. It might kill some deals. I don't know. But okay. So Facebook. Right. And what should they look for in a transaction coordinator, you think, when they're like when a real estate investor is interviewing a transaction coordinator? What should they be looking for in order to find one that's really good?
Education.
Yeah, okay. So explain that.
So, I mean, obviously, like you've mentioned, and we've talked about the contracts. I know the contracts like the back of my hand, and I've been able to manipulate certain elements of these contracts in order to buy us more time.
Yeah.
And I think that the knowledge of the background behind that is essential, because I think, not, obviously tooting my own horn, but we have saved a lot of deals because of
100%.
those key elements.
You definitely deserve to toot your own horn. Like, guys, like she knows more than me about car contracts easily, about like how contracts work. It's super freaking helpful to have someone who like really knows what's going on. While like most agents, they don't even know there's an assignment clause in the car. They haven't even heard of these things. Where like Megan, you at least knew it. You probably hadn't done many assignment transactions before me, but like you at least knew what it was.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyways, no, 100%. You've saved it with disclosures and all sorts of crazy nonsense that's in there.
With whatever I can fall in my hat that day.
Right.
I think that's, and obviously going back to my personal element or my personal life, I'm not sitting at my desk, as 10 hours a day. I mean,
Right.
I'm always available for you.
Right.
And I think that we've kind of made that very open since the beginning.
Right.
Which I think is definitely helpful given my circumstances. So you have the expectation of me to do my job with you and to fulfill it and make sure that everything is going well. And if there's any problems, to let you know and to say the deal. But at the same token, we do have this mutual respect for each other that, like, if I don't answer you, that like I'll get back to it within like 5-10 minutes.
Honestly, you're pretty. Yeah, I mean, I was about to say 5 to 10 minutes is like nothing. Most people don't respond to me for days on, if they don't like if something they don't like know something. So it's very helpful. 5 to 10 minutes is nothing. You also like you get everything done within a day for sure. Like you might have to do something for a little bit, like for a couple hours, but like you usually get everything that needs to get done that day. So it's very fine. Like it's like I don't need you to be clocking in or something like that.
Yeah, we usually get the deals done, and we haven't had. I don't think have we lost any deals? I don't think we've lost.
We must have lost some of them. We've definitely lost deals in the inspection period, but I don't think that counts.
No, like
I don't think we've lost a deal with EMD in escrow from a end assignee. I don't believe.
We did change a buyer, and you did get the EMD, or like the seller, and you got the EMD on one deal, but we ended up closing with another buyer.
Which one was that? No, that's where I had to put my own EMD in.
You put no. Remember, we had the one buyer that they couldn't perform, so they forfeited their EMD. It was an assignment that we had. I'm trying to think of which one it was.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
So that's the only one we did get an end buyer.
Yeah, that was wild. I remember that one. That was super freaking annoying. But anyways, things happen.
The inspection periods, we haven't lost. Like that's been the extent of it.
Yeah,
pretty much we've been solid with our deals.
Definitely gotten a few stressful moments though.
Oh yeah,
we've had some close calls for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, please don't cancel right now. Like it's gonna happen. Trust us.
And I think that goes back to the communication. I think that's the difference between, again, like having an open line of communication with these people, because we are going to, if we can't close, like you've been very forthcoming and saying like, hey, we got to cancel this. It's just not going to work.
Right.
But we also know that at the end of the day that we all work so diligently with these people, and these buyers want to close. As long as they can, they're going to.
Right.
We may need some extra time. We may be a little bit over aggressive.
We always need extra time. How many of them have closed on time? I have none. Like I don't think a single one. Like maybe. Like I don't understand. It's kind of annoying, but like also I get it. I guess whatever. I'm like trying to figure it out, like to make it work. I think there's only one buyer who like I think she actually has. She's also a mortgage officer, so she can like get loans like that, and that's the only buyer who's closed on time, I think. But anyways, we can go through all of our transactions at another time. But so experience, so like just being like educated, just knowing what's going on, like understanding the car contract. And when we say car, guys, it's realtor contract. So whatever they call it in your state, just whatever is the official contract, having a TC that knows it inside out can be super duper helpful. And also like, I mean, you've just been doing real estate for 25 years. So you know how things are, like how things really happen, which
Mm-hmm.
is super helpful too. And then also like transaction coordinating. I mean, guys, like the transaction coordinators usually don't get paid until the deal closes, right? Like I think that's like the common standard. So even newer wholesalers or newer real estate investors, you can get a transaction coordinator tomorrow if you want to. Yeah, for free. So I don't really understand why everybody doesn't have a transaction coordinator. It doesn't even make sense to me. Like, why not?
I
Um,
think the bottom line when it comes to it's your business, it's your money that you're making, and it's hard to let go of those ropes to know that someone's going to take care of you like you do.
I am. I had trouble with that at the beginning because it's like, that's 30K right there. Like, I gotta like let go though and let people do their jobs. That's my thing is in the company is letting everyone do their jobs and knowing somebody's gonna screw up.
You've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, it's true. So what are your expectations from like your clients? Like what is it that you expect? Like if somebody gets a TC, like how should they treat them? Like what are your expectations of your clients for you to work with them?
So I guess the biggest thing, and obviously you and I in the beginning, it's been going on a year now. It was obviously just kind of like with the element of the agent with a transaction coordinator, escrow, or anybody else. It's the relationship. It's knowing, like you just said, the $30,000 that you're counting on, and you're banking on me to do my job correctly, so that way you make the money at the end of the day. It's communication. So, and then it falls down to trust.
Right.
So you and I in the beginning, we talked all the time and we communicated very well. We went over things. And I think that once you started building that trust with me and knowing that I'm here for you as much as I'm here for me.
Right.
I'm here to get this deal closed.
Right.
So it's a big trust aspect because I feel
100%.
like, you and I maybe talk once a week now. More, I mean, we talk every morning, but it's more like a follow-up. It's not like, hey, what are you doing today? Like, are you going to work on this?
We talk every day because it's fun, but we
Well,
wouldn't
that's
need to because we just like screwing around and just like you'll call me and just be like, you wouldn't believe what blah 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 said. I'm like, oh no.
yeah.
You scare me. Sometimes you'll be like, I need to talk to you, and I'm like, oh shit, like what's going on? Like,
Well, my theory is, and I
it's
think it
funny.
should go firsthand for anybody in any business that you do in this, my motto is I come to you with a solution, not a problem. I'll tell you
Right.
about a problem, but I'll have a solution at the end of the day.
Yeah. I've noticed
And
that.
so that's kind of my, like, okay, here's my issue. How can I do to fix it? How can I do to get us to move forward? And what can I tell you so that when you check in with me, I don't have a problem, I have a solution.
It's so nice because like since you're so experienced, it like makes it way easier in the sense like I can you have solutions that I don't have. Like I love everybody in our company, but they're all very new to real estate except for George, but he did a very different side of real estate. So I always know the solution, quote unquote, or like I have a solution, right? It's cool because you have solutions I don't even know about.
Sure.
Like when we're like I don't even think I might have known about making a complaint to the realtor board, but like I had no idea what that process was, and you like knew it from A to Z, right? Which is crazy. So yeah, guys, like 100%, if you're watching this, like if you're watching this in California, like definitely hit up Megan. She's looking for more clients, which means that I need to give her more transactions so none of you get her. That's my issue right now.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not leaving you though, so don't worry about it. I'll get rid of
no,
it before I get rid of you.
you just got to drop them once I get you too many. That's what's going to happen.
That's exactly
So,
what's
so that's what that is. But 100%. Hit up Megan. Megan, how can people reach out to you if they want to do business with you?
email, phone. I do, like, obviously, I have a Southern
Megan
California.
Whitmore TC at gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this would be pretty embarrassing if I spell this wrong. Let's hope I don't spell it wrong. That's right?
That's it. That's
Okay,
correct.
so that's her email, guys. If you're looking for a transaction coordinator in California, hit up Megan. She's amazing. She'll be able to do it really, really well. And then in terms of what else do you have anything else you want to plug, or is it just the TC business right now?
Just a TC. Like I said, eventually, with my future in law, I will still do TC work, but I definitely want to have an opportunity to kind of have like an upper hand at it. In terms of being able to be more of the lawyer mentality. I mean, I have it now, but at least I'll have it like my backing behind it. So it's like, okay, you are a lawyer. But I'm not going to leave it. I really enjoy it. I think it's a great career if you can make a career out of it, as long as you have the patience for it. You can always learn more and grow more in this industry, in this business. I think
Talk about that real quick before you go. I kind of want to hear about that. Like, what do you mean by patience? Like, what does that, like, what parts do you have to be patient about?
Everything.
Right. People is what you mean, right? Dealing with emotions.
Emotions, understanding what people are feeling, whether it be, a buyer or seller, especially a seller. And then like people, you have a great personality, but there's times where you're very aggressive with like, you like the whole, like, use my lender. We're canceling this deal.
Well, I get pissed. I'm like, God, I'm so tired of people screwing with me.
So, but that's where like, you have to be
that's so funny. No, people tell me that though. Like that's my biggest issue as like a leader is like, I mean, Brian told me this is like, I'm intimidating, which I understand because like I'm getting frustrated, not at the person, but at the situation.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what annoys me. But when people hear my frustration, they think I'm getting mad at them, which I need to do better at. That's still like my biggest thing as a leader is like being like, no, I'm not getting frustrated at you. I'm getting frustrated at the situation.
Well, and that's why, again, like I've learned with you, like to come with you with a solution, not a problem, is because when you get frustrated and I know how you're going to react to it. And so it's like, okay, if I figure out a solution though, then when I come back to it, he's be like, okay, you got to handle no big deal. So that's my mentality.
I love that.
So definitely, and you have to think outside the box. You have to, and that's where it comes back, like I said to you, with a solution and a problem. You have to have very creative thinking. Like, for example, like our escrow right now that we keep on trying to postpone as much as we can.
Yeah.
We're having great success at it for different reasons. Although, like you said, the agent will probably never work with us again.
Right.
At least we're going to get this one done.
Yeah, 100%. No, I like it. So you already got a new client. I was putting that up there, just FYI. I don't know who he is. I think it might be Tyler. Tyler's a good friend of mine, but I'm not sure. It might not be. I don't know. But you got a new client, so that'll be cool. It's already hit the hour, so we're like about done. What I like asking like everyone who is in real estate is like, what would you do if you could go back to yourself to that? I'm going to go with the 14-year-old self. And that's like starting to get into real estate. Like, what would you tell her then knowing what you know now?
Patience.
Okay. Like, explain that more. Like, because now you're talking about a different type of patience, right?
Well,
not like patience with people.
No, well, patience all around, because the thing with the real estate, no matter if you're an agent or you're a TC or you're a person that's trying to build a company, you can't rush it. You have to have patience in your growth and building and learning and letting the things come in and letting things happen. When I first started, got in real estate, and I went at it full force. I mean, I was like marketing and phone calling and opening, like I put everything into it and I wasn't getting back. And so it made me very frustrated and feel like I was a failure.
Right.
The problem is with real estate is that it takes time.
Right.
Building a business takes time. Building a team, doing what you've done in terms of learning and getting where you're at right now, it doesn't happen overnight. So I have a very strong personality, and I hate failure. So I have in the beginning, I had zero patience for it. I would get frustrated, get mad. I'd be like, what am I doing wrong? Maybe I just need to go and find another career.
Right.
But once I actually took a step back and I let things kind of happen, that's when it started to take off.
Cool. I love it. Awesome. Well, I think that's basically it. I'll put your email up again. Email her, guys, if you're looking to have another transaction coordinator in California. What do you recommend, like specifically, like how would you look it up on Facebook? Like I think what I did was just transaction coordinating in California or something like that. So just be transaction coordinating in Las Vegas or wherever they're at.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of groups that I'm on, and they're actually nationwide, which is actually kind of cool. So yeah, just transaction coordinating, and then there'll be a ton of groups that come up, and then it's cool because there's different agents in there, different TCs in there, different assistants in there. So if you're looking for something specifically or a specific state, somebody's there to help you find it, which is like actually really cool.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to end this one. Megan, you're amazing. Stay on after this because I would like an update on just the next one, the one we're trying to get assigned.
Okay.
So, all right, guys, love it. Amazing. Next week, we're going to have Michelle and Paul on. They're really big in Astro. That'll be a super cool one. We'll go over their type of business and what all the cool stuff they're doing. They're like traveling to Mexico and just living wherever the hell they want. It's pretty awesome. So I'll see y'all next time. Thank you so much again, Megan. And we are out of here.